We're now joined by Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com, Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Boy, a lot of things have changed since what we thought this might be a massive game for who knows. Where is everything right now this week in College Station, Olin?
Obviously it's not as big a game for the reasons we thought it might be a couple months ago. I think that here they're still saying that they're trying to iron out some wrinkles and execute better, and they feel like once they get to a point where they're executing their plays, they say they're very close, it's coming. But we've been hearing that for several weeks now, that they're just leaving plays on the field. And they did that last week, but, we're at the midway point. And you get to at some point, you got to stop saying that you're getting close and start saying that you are executing. Otherwise, isn't that who you are? I think that we've all heard the difference between a good team and a bad team. It's the good teams make plays to win, and bad teams find ways to lose. And right now, we don't know which one A&M is, but we're certainly trending toward the bad team.
Olin, the last time we had you on, I asked you if you thought that Jimbo would ever relinquish being the play caller on this team. And after you had a good laugh, you said no. Would he ever, if he's not going to do that, especially given how he's moved the offensive staff around and what their responsibilities are, would he ever adjust his scheme to maybe simplify it and modernize it?
It's funny. I asked him after the game against Mississippi State if he's lost any faith in that scheme, and he says, no, the scheme is not the problem. We're just not executing. Well, can't every coach say that? Hey, if you execute, every play is probably going to be successful for everybody. He has, however, in recent weeks, seemed to reconsider some things. For instance, he was asked if he would consider getting an offensive coordinator and giving up the plays and the play calling, and he did say that they would evaluate everything at the end of the year, and that he would consider that. So I think just about everybody, it seems like, can see that the A&M offense is not it's not productive. That the talent is better than the scheme, and supposedly, he keeps saying, well, it might be one player that's making this mistake that messes everything up. Well, maybe they need to come to a more forgiving scheme where, you see other programs find guys open and maybe not everything has to be perfect. So I think maybe there's a certain realization that he's coming to. But if he does make a change, it won't be, I'm sure, until the off season, and even then, I think I have to see it to believe it.
Olin, we all have expectations, especially ones that build up throughout the offseason. Everybody gets new players and new coaches and new this and new that. Everybody gets this new spark. But for A&M, this is the thing that year after year has been building, and Jimbo and the big contract and all that. How surprised are you by where they are right now?
Oh, I'm surprised. I said before the season started in year 5, after going 8-4 last year with a backup quarterback and 2 freshmen in the offensive line, that anything less than 10 wins would be a disappointment. I think there's, mathematically they're still on pace for 10 wins, but I think we can all agree that looks very unlikely. Now, the second half of the season, the schedule is less challenging, but quite frankly, A&M has been so inconsistent. I don't know, with the exception of the game against UMass and maybe at Auburn, even though you have to go there, that I would look at a game and say, all right, they're going to win this one. There's no game that you look at that, again, other than UMass, where you say, all right, you can just circle it down as a win. I think A&M is a week-to-week team. And, again, we keep hearing from Jimbo and even some of the players that when they look at the game videos, that they can see where there was a breakdown here, otherwise it would have been a huge play. There was a breakdown here, otherwise it would have been a huge play. and a lot of that. But what's consistent is they're consistently not making that. They're consistently having that breakdown that's preventing big plays. It's not just the offensive line. Evan Stewart dropped a touchdown pass last week. Devon Achane, who's usually very reliable, fumbled at the 4-yard line. They had a defensive player would have had a pick six. He just dropped it as bad as you can drop one. They had a field goal block and went the other way for a touchdown. So there's all kinds of issues right now. And, maybe they will be able to iron out some of these wrinkles. But, again, it's the time for promising that it's coming, that they're going to put it together, is past. It's time to either solve some of these problems or just quit talking about it, because it's starting to sound like empty promises.
Olin, we went over a history of a lot of teams that have won national championships, and once we started, it completely blew a hole into what I was talking about, how you need elite quarterbacks, and you don't. You can have them with a lot of names that have won national titles because everyone around them is so good. Is there any chance that A&M just misdiagnosed the quarterbacks that they recruited and who they have?
Yeah, there's absolutely a chance. I think they thought Haynes King was going to be better, and maybe someday he will. But he's had, he just had to be. He had to be replaced because he wasn't playing well. He looked unsure. We don't know about Connor Wigman. They brought in, Zach Calzada. Obviously, wasn't the answer, even though he wasn't a highly ranked quarterback. I think that was a guy that there were some other guys that they wanted that they didn't get, but there has been some guys that I think A&M might have had a good chance at, and they didn't recruit as hard. And one of them they might face this week against Alabama if Jalen Milroe starts. Mm-hmm. So I think that's very fair. Now, when he inherited Kellen Mond, and that was the best guy he had, and I think the big disappointment so far was that they really felt like Haynes King could be special, and that just hasn't been the case at this point.
Now, Jimbo will tell you he's ready to go with Connor Wigman. He said he feels good about him playing if he had to. But is that coach speak? Is that optimism, or would there be a point where he says, "What the heck? Let's see what he's got"?
Well, I have to believe right now, based on everything I've seen, that it's coach speak. I mean, up until this year, I felt like everything Jimbo had told us was proved to be pretty accurate, that he was forthcoming and honest with opinion. And I'm not saying he's lying things when he tells us now. I'm just wondering how much is coach speak. We were keep hearing like certain players and how good they looked in practice and how good they looked in in the spring and everything, and yet it hadn't translated on the field. I'm not going to mention the guy, but I know there's one guy that he talked about all off season, just raved, and he's a defensive player and he has minimal tackles. He's had a minimal impact. There's some other places where they was, hey, the offensive line is looking so good and things like that, and quite frankly, it just hasn't been very good this year. I think some of the guys who started last year have taken a step back, as a matter of fact. So I just think the time for talk at A&M is long past, and it's time to actually, put up or shut up kind of situation.
Olin, I guess if it's not all negative, if there were some positives to throw out there that you've seen so far, I mean, what would some of those be?
Well, first of all, Devon Achane is, the guy's really, really good.
Yeah.
I almost feel sorry for him that he's not getting more help. We thought that that A&M would have a passing game to complement him and take some of the pressure off, and it really hasn't been there consistently. Now, they lost Anaya Smith for the year, which a huge setback. But Moose Muhammad came in last week and played really well. Had 6 catches for about 120 yards. We've been waiting on him for 3 years, so maybe that was a breakout performance for him, and that he's going to be able to be a good player. Evan Stewart's been up and down. Unfortunately, last week he was down. But other than that, offensively, there's not a whole lot else. Defensively, the linebacker play has been inconsistent at best. There's been little to no pass rush. I think The secondary is pretty good if they've got their starters in, but I think some of the depth has been disappointing when they've had to go to some of the other guys. We've seen some big plays. So coming into the season, you felt on paper that A&M had a chance to have a really good year if some of the question marks were answered, and none of them really have been answered.
Olin, thank you very much. A&M and Alabama at Tuscaloosa coming up this week. And thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Olin Buchanan from TexAgs.com, 365 Sports. And, yeah, they I put up or shut